Close your eyes for a moment and think about the last time someone's words cut through you like a knife. Maybe it was a casual comment from a friend, a dismissive text from someone you care about, or worse, complete silence when you needed to hear something, anything. Now ask yourself, why did it hurt so much? Why does a simple sentence from another human being have the power to ruin your entire day, week, or even month? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most self-help content won't tell you. You're not looking for strength. You're looking for numbness. You want to become bulletproof, untouchable, immune to the chaos of human connection. But that's not strength. That's paralysis disguised as power. I'm going to share something with you that changed my entire understanding of emotional resilience. And it comes from Carl Jung, one of history's greatest minds in psychology. He said something that sounds almost too simple. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Let that sink in for a second. Everything you think is happening to you is actually happening through you. If you've ever felt like you're emotionally fragile, like everyone else got a manual on how to handle life, and you missed that day, this is for you. Stay with me, because what I'm about to show you isn't comfortable, but it might be exactly what sets you free. Let me tell you about Sarah, successful marketing director, great apartment, active social life. On paper, she had it together, but every time her boss gave her constructive feedback, she'd spiral for days. Not because the feedback was harsh, it was usually helpful. She spiraled because that feedback triggered something deeper. When she was 12, her father told her she'd never amount to anything during an argument. One sentence decades ago, and it had been running her life ever since. Every critique became proof that her father was right. Every setback confirmed her deepest fear that she wasn't enough. This is what most people don't understand about emotional pain. The present moment isn't actually what's hurting you. You're reliving an old wound that never healed properly. You just plastered over it and hoped it would go away. Think about it like this. Imagine you broke your arm as a kid, but instead of getting a cast, you just learned to use your other arm really well. You became ambidextrous, compensated, adapted. But that original break, it never set properly. And now, years later, every time there's pressure on that arm, it aches. Not because new damage is occurring, but because the old damage was never addressed. Your emotional wounds work the same way. That abandonment you felt at 15, that betrayal at 23, that moment your vulnerability was used against you. You didn't process it. You just built your life around it. You created rules. Never let anyone get too close. Never show weakness. Never trust completely. And now you wonder why connection feels so exhausting. It's because you're not connecting. You're defending. Jung understood this deeply. He knew that we spend most of our lives running from ourselves, and we call it moving forward. We stay busy, distracted, productive, anything to avoid sitting with what's actually happening inside us. But here's where it gets interesting. That avoidance, it's costing you more energy than the actual healing would. Every time you suppress an emotion, redirect a thought, or numb yourself with work, scrolling, substances, or superficial relationships, you're spending massive amounts of psychological energy maintaining that wall. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. It takes constant effort. The moment you relax, everything you've been suppressing comes rushing back up. Now let's talk about why you keep ending up in the same situations with different people. Different job, same toxic boss. Different relationship, same patterns. Different friend group, same dynamics. You think you're choosing differently, but you're not. Your unconscious is running a program you didn't even know was installed. Jung called this the shadow, the part of you that exists outside your awareness, making decisions while you think you're in control. Let me give you a concrete example. Michael grew up with a mother who was emotionally unpredictable. Some days she was warm and loving, other days cold and critical. He never knew which version he'd get. As an adult, he kept dating women who were emotionally unavailable or inconsistent. Not because he consciously wanted that pain, but because his unconscious was trying to solve an old problem. If I can just get this unavailable person to choose me, it proves I was worthy of love all along. His unconscious was replaying the same scenario, hoping for a different ending. But here's the thing, you can't solve a childhood wound with adult relationships. You can only heal it by becoming conscious of it. This is why awareness is so powerful. The moment you see the pattern, you break the spell. You realize, wait, I'm not actually choosing this person because they're right for me. I'm choosing them because they feel familiar. Familiar isn't the same as good. Familiar is just what your nervous system recognizes, and your nervous system mistakes recognition for safety, even when what it's recognizing is dangerous. Think about how wild that is. Your own biology is working against your happiness because it prioritizes predictability over growth. It would rather keep you in a known hell than risk an unknown heaven. So when someone asks, why do I keep attracting the wrong people? The real question is, what am I unconsciously seeking that these people provide? Usually, it's an opportunity to replay an old dynamic and finally win this time. But you never win because the game itself is rigged. Here's something that might sting. You think if you just do everything right, if you're kind enough, successful enough, attractive enough, helpful enough, then people won't hurt you. That's the deal you've made with the universe, right? If I'm good, I'll be safe. But life doesn't work that way. You can be the most thoughtful person in the room and still get betrayed. You can be brilliant and still get overlooked. You can be loyal and still get abandoned. The painful truth is that you have zero control over how other people treat you. Zero. And every moment you spend trying to control that outcome is a moment spent in anxiety, people-pleasing, and self-abandonment. Let me share a story about control that really illustrates this. There's a man named David who did everything right in his marriage. He was attentive, romantic, financially stable. When his wife left him anyway, he was devastated. Not just by the loss, but by the failure of his strategy. He genuinely believed that if he performed well enough, he could control the outcome. But relationships aren't transactions. Love isn't earned through good behavior. People make choices based on their own internal landscapes, their own wounds, their own paths. And sometimes those paths diverge from yours no matter what you do. The freedom comes when you stop trying to control how others see you, treat you, or respond to you. When you release that death grip on outcomes, something miraculous happens. You get your energy back. All that energy you were spending on managing perceptions, anticipating reactions, strategizing interactions, it floods back into your system, and suddenly you have energy for what actually matters. Knowing yourself, healing yourself, becoming yourself. Jung said, "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become." That choice begins the moment you stop trying to control external circumstances and start mastering internal responses. Now we get to the heart of it. You don't become emotionally strong by eliminating feelings. You become strong by integrating them. Most people approach emotional healing like they're editing a document. Delete the bad parts, keep the good parts, present a clean version. But you're not a document. You're a complex ecosystem, and every part serves a function, even the parts you hate. Your anger, it's trying to protect your boundaries, your anxiety, it's trying to keep you safe, your sadness, it's grieving what you've lost. These aren't enemies to defeat, they're messengers trying to tell you something. Jung's concept of individuation is about becoming whole, not perfect. It's about gathering all the scattered pieces of yourself. The shameful parts, the weak parts, the needy parts, the aggressive parts, and saying, "This is all me, and I'm done hiding." Let me give you an example of what this looks like in practice. There's a woman named Jessica who spent years trying to eliminate her neediness. She saw it as weakness. She'd rather die than ask for help. But her neediness didn't disappear. It just went underground. It showed up as passive-aggressive behavior, as choosing partners who were emotionally distant so she'd never have to risk asking for closeness, as chronic loneliness that she medicated with work. When she finally started therapy and began to integrate that needy part of herself, something shifted. She realized that her need for connection wasn't weakness, it was humanity. We're literally wired for attachment. Needing people isn't a flaw in your character. It's a feature of being human. Once she accepted that, she could express her needs directly instead of hiding them. And paradoxically, the more she accepted her neediness, the less desperate it became. When you stop fighting a part of yourself, it stops fighting back. This is the power of integration. You're not trying to become someone else. You're trying to become more fully yourself. And that includes the dark stuff, the uncomfortable stuff, the parts that don't fit the Instagram version of who you want to be. Let's talk about something nobody wants to hear. Your suffering has purpose. Not because some cosmic force is teaching you lessons, but because pain is information. It's your psyche's way of saying, something here needs attention. Jung had this beautiful metaphor about depression being like a lady in black. If she shows up at your door, don't slam it in her face. Invite her in. Offer her tea. Ask her what she's come to tell you. But what do? We medicate, distract, numb, and run. We treat depression, anxiety, and grief like inconveniences to be eliminated rather than messages to be heard. I'm not romanticizing suffering. Chronic pain that's left unaddressed can be devastating, but I am saying that the rush to eliminate discomfort without understanding its source is why so many people stay stuck. Here's a powerful example. There's a concept in therapy called the symptom as solution. Sometimes your anxiety isn't the problem, it's your psyche's best attempt at solving a deeper problem. Maybe your social anxiety keeps you from situations where you might be rejected, which protects a fragile sense of self-worth. The anxiety is uncomfortable, but it's doing a job. The question isn't, how do I get rid of this anxiety? It's, what is this anxiety protecting me from? When you answer that second question, the anxiety often shifts on its own because you've addressed the root cause. This is why Jung believed suffering could be sacred. It breaks you open. It forces you into depths you'd never voluntarily explore. And sometimes in those depths, you find the truth that sets you free. Think about the moments in your life when you grew the most. I'd bet they weren't the comfortable moments. They were the moments when everything fell apart, when you lost someone, failed spectacularly, or faced a truth you'd been avoiding. Those crucible moments burned away who you pretended to be and revealed who you actually are. Here's something they don't tell you about personal growth. It's lonely. Not because you'll be alone, but because you'll outgrow spaces, people, and versions of yourself that once felt like home. When you start doing this work, really doing it, you begin to see through the masks. You see the games people play, the defenses they hide behind, the ways they avoid themselves, and you can't unsee it. You become less tolerant of surface-level connection because you've tasted depth. This doesn't make you better than anyone else. It just means you're operating on a different frequency, and not everyone can tune in. I know someone named Marcus who went through this. After years of therapy and self-work, he found that his oldest friendships felt hollow. They'd get together, drink beer, complain about their lives, but never actually change anything. It wasn't judgment. It was just that he'd changed, and the friendship hadn't evolved with him. Letting go of those relationships was one of the hardest things he did. These were people who'd been there for him. But he realized that loyalty to old connections can sometimes be disloyalty to your growth. Jung understood this. Individuation is inherently a solitary process. You can have guides, therapists, mentors, but ultimately, you have to walk through your own darkness alone. Nobody can do it for you. And when you emerge, you're different. You see the world differently. You can't go back to who you were, even if you wanted to. But here's the beautiful part. When you stop abandoning yourself to maintain connections, you attract people who see you. really see you. Not the performance, not the mask, not the carefully curated version, the actual you. And those connections, though fewer, are infinitely richer. So we come full circle. You asked at the beginning how to become untouchable, unshakable, and now you know the answer isn't what you thought. You don't become untouchable by building walls. You become untouchable by becoming whole. When you've integrated your shadows, faced your wounds, and accepted every part of yourself, there's nothing left for the world to expose. You've already seen it all. You've already sat with your shame, your rage, your grief. What can anyone tell you about yourself that you haven't already acknowledged? That's true invincibility. Not the absence of pain, but the presence of consciousness. You still feel everything, but you're no longer controlled by it. You observe your emotions rather than being consumed by them. You choose your responses rather than reacting from old wounds. This is what Jung meant by becoming whole. You're not transcending your humanity, you're fully inhabiting it. And from that place of integration, you can engage with life without fear. Not because nothing will hurt you, but because you trust yourself to handle whatever comes. Your consciousness is that foundation. The more you know yourself, truly know yourself, the less the external world can shake you. Not because you don't care, but because you're rooted in something deeper than circumstances, opinions, or outcomes. So here's my challenge to you. Stop running from yourself. Stop trying to fix, improve, or perfect yourself into somebody you're not. Start the messy, difficult, beautiful work of integration. Sit with what you've been avoiding. Feel what you've been numbing. Acknowledge what you've been denying. It won't be comfortable, growth never is. But on the other side of that discomfort is a version of you that doesn't need armor because you've become whole. And that changes everything. If this resonates with you, I want you to write in the comments, I choose awareness. Not as a mantra, not as a wish, but as a commitment. A commitment to stop hiding from yourself and start becoming yourself. The journey of individuation isn't for everyone. Most people will choose comfort over consciousness, but you're still here, which means you're not most people. You're ready for something deeper, something real. This is just the beginning. The real work starts now. The journey of individuation isn't for everyone. Most people will choose comfort over consciousness, but you're still here, which means you're not most people. You're ready for something deeper, something real. This is just the beginning. The real work starts now.